Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Living Beyond Borders Platica. This afternoon was our 6th annual Border Book Bash. I'm so excited that we made it 6 years, and I'm even more excited because Justine is here with me, and she has been since my first book bash. She was my assistant for all of my book bashes, and so I'm so excited that we're doing this together.
I know. I still remember that first book bash. We were going crazy the day before. It's like we're gonna lose our minds.
But no. So I'm really excited that this is the 6th year. Hopefully next year we get to go back in person. That's what I'm hoping. But so I'm gonna start off with there's Dominic. Yay! I got he's here. Hi, Dominic.
Hi.
I'm so excited that you.
Hi. Good to see you.
Can you see us?
Hold on. Okay. More light.
Him that you. I go. He's somewhere else in the world, but he just had a baby, so he has to be up somewhere. Okay, so I'm gonna start.
Yeah. Great.
We're gonna start. Okay, I'm gonna start with the first question, and then we'll all go. You're not late. You're just on time. So I'm gonna ask for everybody to please introduce themselves and tell us where you're tuning in from, and we'll start with Justine.
My name is Justine. I just turned 30 this year. I keep telling everyone I just turned 30. Right now I'm in Orlando, Florida. We took the kids to Disney World last week, and we are camping with my partner John's family right now, so that they could meet our newborn baby, Debbie. She's 2 months old. So that's where I'm at right now. We're going home to Texas on Tuesday.
Trini?
Hi everyone, Trin Gonzales. I'm here in McAllen. I'm in my office at my house. You can see behind me my daughter's pictures and artwork. So I'm glad to be here for my first Border Bash as a presenter.
Awesome! We're so happy to have you. Okay, Dominic.
Hi, my name's Dominic Carrillo. I broke my finger a few weeks ago playing basketball with students. I teach at an international school in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I've been teaching here for 9 years, and my wife is Bulgarian and half Russian, and we just had a kid. So everything's like, my world has been completely altered, and it's pretty awesome. Wow. And everyone's asking me at work if I've slept enough, and I have slept enough. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. What time is it where you are?
It is 8:00.
In the morning or at night?
At night.
Okay.
But I'm having coffee because
I didn't even ask Dominic if he was like at 3:00 in the morning.
3 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Okay, next, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you. My name is Sylvia Sanchez Garza, and thank you, Margie, for having me here with the Border Book Bash. I was honored to attend some of the other Border Book Bashes in person, and did the last year and this one, so I'm really excited. I am in Edinburgh at home. I'm originally from Weslaco. I grew up in Weslaco, Texas, and I live here in Edinburgh with my family. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm really excited to have this group together because this group is our Living Beyond Borders group. Okay, and I'm so excited because I've done presentations with Trini and with Sylvia, but I wanted them to be part of this panel as well. But Dominic, since he's like all in the future or in the past, I wanted him someday so I could have him somehow in a panel with me and Justine. Justine, I want to just say a little bit about Justine. Justine came to me one day. I needed a library clerk. I'm a librarian, and my library clerk who was with me, and a library clerk she was for 30 years a library clerk. So in other words, she was a librarian without the library degree. And she knew everything. I was just the librarian. She was the librarian in real life. I was just the one with the title, right? Because I had no idea. Brand new librarian. This woman knew everything. And she got sick one year, and it was 5 years into my librarianhood, and she was going to have to retire. And I was like, I'm going to die. I cannot live without Cindy. I don't know what I'm going to do. They were like, you need to hire a new library clerk. And I was like, how do you hire a new library clerk after Cindy? I'm never going to get any. I was just devastated. And one day they pull up these applications and in walks Justine, right? And I don't know what it was. Justine, how old are you, Justine? You were little.
I was 24, I think 24.
And I was just like, I remember asking her like what books she read, and she had read books, and there was just something. And I was like, I want her to be mine. So
I think I was the first person you interviewed too.
And there was just something. And we hired her, and I was so excited. And she was the best library clerk. Like we got along so well. She was like my little sister. And then I find out that she is a writer, and she's right. And she shows me some of her. I'm like, you're a beautiful poet. Like, why are you not publishing poetry? Like I was. So whenever I had the idea for this anthology, I thought to myself, Justine needs to be in this. So I'm really excited that I have her, that she's in this anthology with all of us. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about yourselves, everybody, and the piece that you have in Living Beyond Borders and what inspired you to write it. And we'll start with Justine.
So I wrote my piece, I Want to Go Home, in the middle of the night. One time because I was in school. I was taking a Mexican American literature class, and we had just been reading Gloria Anzaldúa's Borderlands, and I think we had just also finished Medico Paredes's George Washington Gomez. So both of those deal with, growing up on a border and dealing with the culture and everything. And so I was just kind of, and I think I just wrote it in one sitting, and it was like so long, and I just kept adding to it. And so when Margie asked me if I could write a piece for it, I was like, I think I might have a poem for it already, if I can have a poem in there. And I showed it to her, and she was like, yes, this is perfect. This is what I want. I think I wrote it maybe 2 years before she got the deal for Living Beyond Borders. So yeah.
I remember reading it and thinking like, and because usually you have to edit stuff, and I was like, no, this seems pretty perfect. And it was, I was very everything that she wrote, because she would show me for her creative writing classes, and I would read her stuff, and I was like, you are so talented. Like so I'm so excited that she agreed to give us one of her poems. And
I was so excited that she asked me. I was like, no, I can't at first.
But thank you.
Thank you.
And and then what I loved even more, it was so amazing, because whenever they decided to do the cover release, they did an excerpt from the book, and they picked Justine's poem to be the coming out for the book. And so it's on not only is it in the book, but you can read it on Amazon and on all the pages as the excerpt for it that kind of like goes with Living Beyond Borders. So that was really exciting.
Made me really nervous when she told me that I was going to.
Awesome.
So okay, next we have Dr. Trinidad Gonzales. Is he frozen?
He looks frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone.
Am I coming through now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the piece I wrote was, are there Mexicans in Texas, with a question mark? And that was based on an actual experience I had when I was in DC at the Smithsonian. And I want to focus on the process a child goes through and that I went through, and growing up, considering yourself American, but then at a certain point, it becomes clear people don't think you're American, or don't think your community is American, or don't think your family is American. And the process of experiencing that as a child, and then how the stories I heard at barbecues and meriendas with my mom also shaped and helped me deal with it as an adult, right? So I was dealing with essentially the trauma of that process through this essay. And I didn't use the word trauma on the essay on purpose, but I wanted to get at that psychological sort of tension that many people feel when they're considered others, even though they've been and their friends have been here forever, right? And so that was the impetus of my piece.
I was very honored to have Chini in this anthology because he's an expert in Mexican American studies. And Mission High School, the high school that I'm at, was one of the first high schools in the country, I think, to teach Mexican American studies at the high school level for college credit. And he was the professor. So, and then plus we grew up in the same. We both went to the same high school. We're both from Edinburgh, Texas, and we went to the same church growing up. And our fathers played high school football together, so we kind of had like a little history. But we weren't friends growing up because we were different ages. But we had like a connection, and I just thought I really needed something from him. And his essay is excellent, and it's been getting a lot of people that read the book really enjoy his essays. So thank you, Ginny, for giving us your story. Okay, Dominic.
Yeah, so my story it's called Ghetto is Not an Adjective, and it's the first one. And I just wanted to say first, like, Margie, you've been awesome throughout the whole process. I mean, you invited me into the anthology, I think because of Paco Jones and this young adult novel that I wrote and that you wrote a good review for. So I just want to thank you because you're awesome. And like throughout the whole process, you've been really supportive and cool. So thank you. Ghetto is not an adjective goes back quite a long way. I heard that from a professor at UCLA 20 years ago, that term or that reference. And then I was teaching fifth grade in 1999 at an all-black school. And I just heard the kids using the word ghetto all the time in this negative, pejorative way. And like, you know, describing their classmates that way. And then I also I coached at a school like 10 minutes north that was like a predominantly white school. I'd go into between these two worlds every day, and I'd hear the word ghetto used up there too, but it was in a different context. They were far removed from it, and so I saw these like mostly white kids at a private school using the word but being completely removed from it, and then students every day in the ghetto, so-called ghetto, talking about it and talking about themselves that way. And I thought, this has to do some kind of damage, has some kind of like psychological, something is happening here that I don't really like. And then years later, I wrote this story where I actually wrote the poem first. There's a poem in this chapter or in this story. And so this guy's riding the bus, and it's kind of it's a first person thing, and they observe a guy who stands up and delivers this poem, "Ghetto's Not an Adjective," to a captive audience that's stuck on this bus. And I guess I wanted to show it from a couple different perspectives, but I wanted it to be universal, I guess, and in it, the main character, he's kind of like me, like half Mexican, half white. There's Mexican characters or Latino characters in it, but it's I wanted it to be kind of a universal thing about like why are we using the word ghetto? What does that mean about like how we see race and class in the United States? So that's the gist of it.
I was really excited that you said yes. Yeah, this story, I remember when they asked me, put the stories in order, right? And I thought to myself, like, okay, how do I want the stories to go? Because there's such a mix of emotions, and every story is so different. This whole book, like, there's happy, there's sad, there's ups, there's downs. There's all kinds of in this particular anthology. And do you want to start sad? Do you want to start happy? So I mean, this is like really crazy. Like, and then my son, he was the first one who ever read the whole thing from front and he's at the time he was 15 years old. He was like our target audience, and he read the whole manuscript, and he was like, Mom, and I was like, did you like it, baby? Right? And he was like, I loved it, Mom. And I was like, you're not just saying that, right? Because I'm your mom, and like he's afraid I won't feed him because my little boy loves to eat. And he was like, oh, Mom, he goes, I wish there were more stories. Like, this is all, like, we can't get more stories. And I was like, no, this is all we could get. And he was just like, he said that he loved everything. And he told me, like, we talked about every single story. And then when we were talking about, I was telling him how I needed to put everything in order. And he told me, I want you to put ghettos on an adjective first. That was his favorite story of the whole manuscript. So then I said, okay,
Wow.
so that's the one we put first. And then we went after that. So that story has made a big impact on a lot of people. The other day I was doing a school visit, and the librarian said that she had said something like she was with her daughter, and that her daughter, and she was like, oh my God, this is so ghetto. And then her daughter was like, Mom, ghetto is not an adjective. Don't use ghetto as an adjective.
Yes.
And she had, like, you know, and then she remembered your story. She's like, and she had just read this anthology, and she was like, and then I thought of that story. Oh my God. And it was like a sign. I don't know what she was telling me. Real sweet. So yes, your story is amazing. And thank you so much. And I'm so glad that we were able to, that we met through Paco. Like, Paco was one of my favorite books. And it was, that's why I asked you to be in this anthology, because I loved your writing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Give your son a hug from me, please.
And he really is an expert on all of this, Michael. He knows his stuff.
He loves to read, and he was real, like, excited about this whole thing. Okay, so thank you. Sylvia?
Yes. Well, I wanted to echo what they've already said. Thank you, Margie, for everything that you do, everything you're doing, and for including me in this anthology. I'm really excited about being part of it. And on my story, it's titled Ojo. And the reason that story came about, I had mentioned it before. My son, one of my sons, I have 4, was just starting medical school. And he was the first cohort here at the UTRGV Medical School. And when he came home one day and was telling me that they were talking to them about Ojo, and that they were talking to him about the culture here in the valley, about how our culture believes in Ojo, and how they have to be able to respect our people and respect our culture, because that's something that's very important. So they were explaining that to him. So he was asking me about that, and that kind of triggered, my first memory about how that happened to me, because that's something that we grew up with. And it was something that if you looked at a baby a certain way, that you had to touch that baby, or else that baby was going to get mal de ojo. And that's something that we grew up with. And now it's kind of gone away, I guess. You don't see that as much. But when we were kids, that was very prevalent. And I remember my experience of going through that and being cured of that, going to the doctor and all that. So my story is based on some of the experiences that I knew of from that. And I know it's really important in our culture. And I just wanted to bring up some of those parts of our culture that might be lost. And it's really hard to translate that into other parts of the nation, other parts of the world, but it's important in our culture. And I just wanted to make sure that that's important. And I know that in medical school that my son attended, it was really important, because they were emphasizing how, when patients go to the hospital, sometimes they even take the egg with them, and they place it into the bed, and that's trying to cure, so that they have to be able to respect their beliefs. So I thought that was important. So that's how that story came about.
That's awesome that they would do that in medical school, because medical school is medical school.
In our medical school here, yeah. They do, because it's in our valley. So.
That's amazing. I'm real happy to know that, because I believe in mal de ojo. I mean, I think we all do growing up here along the border and growing up with grandparents and parents who instilled that in us. And I love your story. I remember reading your story, and some of the stuff didn't translate with the editors in New York, and kind of wanting to change it. And I remember telling them, like, this is authentic. This is her authentic voice. This is border stories. This is what she's saying is what it is, and we're not going to change it because you might not understand it. The people who need to understand it will understand it, and we need to leave it the way she wrote it. So thank you so much for writing a story as authentic as Ojo. And there was a school in Roma. The librarian there, she's real sweet. One of my real good friends, Lamar, she bought the book for all of her English teachers during Hispanic Heritage Month. And she had posted pictures, and she had said, and I saw, like, they on the walls, they put stuff up on the walls of their work. And and there was the Ojo one. Like, somebody had, like, that was one of the stories that they had. And I saw it real big, and I was like, look, they did Ojo. So it was awesome to see. And a lot of different teachers that have been using this book in the classroom, which is really exciting to me, because they are using it in the classrooms, and they'll send me stuff like of what the students are writing, and that is so amazing, because as educators, all of us here, that's pretty much what I wanted for this book. So it's real.
Exactly. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
So our next question: identity is such an important part of adolescence, and it shapes us as to the adults that we become. Do you think culturally relevant literature is important for our young people, and why? Justine.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely think it's extremely important. I think growing up, we read the books in our classroom, through our English classes. There's not very much diversity in them, at least not when I was in school. And I didn't graduate that long ago. I graduated about 10, 11 years ago. And even then, there was not a lot of culturally diverse literature in the classroom. So, you kind of grow up, growing up Mexican American, you grow up a little lost with a lot of the things that in your day-to-day life, and then the things that you read, and it's not really relevant to you. So I think that it's important to have these culturally diverse books in the classroom, because I think everyone needs to be able to relate to characters in the books that they read. And a lot of the times for us, that's not the case.
Sylvia?
Yes, I completely agree. It's extremely important. When I grew up, we didn't have anything that was diverse, and I was in the library a lot. I checked out books all the time. I read all the classics, and we didn't have anything that was relatable, that really resonated with us, with anyone, until I read Sandra Cisneros. That was when I was able to see my family in literature. That was the first time. And then, of course, there was Bless Me Ultima, and then from then on. But as a child, no, there weren't any books, and not only in books, but you didn't see yourself in any of the arts, not on TV, not anywhere. So it's really important that our students are able to see themselves, whether they are Mexican American, whether they are whatever race, gender, LGBTQ, whatever it is, they need to be able to identify and resonate with the literature. It's extremely important that they have diverse books.
Yes. Trini?
I'm going to personalize this question based on my own experience. Another project I'm involved in is called Refusing to Forget, that looks at the state-sanctioned violence against Mexicanos between 1910 and 1920. And one of those events was the Matanza of 1915 that happened here in the Valley, where around 300 Mexican Americans were killed by Texas Rangers, local law enforcement, vigilantes, and soldiers arbitrarily. So I'm a descendant of two individuals that were killed during this Matanza. And so in 10th grade, when I was taking my Texas history class in like 1980, 81, the textbooks obviously venerated the Texas Rangers, right? But my history instructor, Mr. Garza, says, well, don't believe everything that's in the textbook. You know, the older people call them los rinches, right? Because the way the textbook refers to these individuals that were killed, my relatives and many relatives from the Valley, is as bandits, right?
I don't know how to refresh.
Frozen again?
Yeah. I don't know how to refresh him. I don't think I can. I think he needs.
He might need to refresh himself.
Hopefully he sees. Let me text him.
Can he hear us?
Jeannie, can you hear us? There you are. No, there. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me let him back in. Okay, there. Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
I just, I'll.
But what I love about his stories is that he is so knowledgeable about Mexican American studies. Like, I could talk to this guy all day. Like, and
There's the problem, lack of it that's culturally relevant. But then there's am I back?
kind of there. Now you are.
Hi.
No. There he goes. Okay, well,
Not the best connection.
I'm going to remove him and let him add himself back. Hold on, there we go. No, he's okay. Dominic?
All right. Can you repeat the question? I know the question, but can you repeat the question again just to refresh?
Identity is an important part of adolescence, and it shapes us to become the adults we are most of the time. I think it really does. So do you think, culturally relevant literature is important for young adults, and why?
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think it's very important. I think that, and I'll stop as soon as if Trinidad comes back in. But I think most of the motivation for my own writing comes from teaching kids, teaching teenagers. And the first school that I worked at was an all-black school. And as a teacher, I was struggling to find a variety of African-American voices in African-American literature and books. And then I worked in the Barrio Logan in San Diego. Same thing. I'm trying to find books that just represent and fit and connect, because I'm sure you understand this as a librarian. You want to just connect people to the books that they love so they can fall in love with reading. And so it was really challenging in that way. And that's part of the reason I wrote Paco Jones, was because I was teaching. I was trying to just add another, I guess, voice that I didn't feel had been represented by kind of my own experience growing up. And again, it was from a teacher's perspective, because you read the YA books that are in your library, in your classroom. And at least in my case, I was completely left wanting more, And so any kind of culturally diverse new, whether it's gender, race, whatever, cultural diverse category is like refreshing to see. And I've seen it a lot in the last few years, which is really cool. And yeah, I guess 20 years seems like a long time ago to some people, but it doesn't seem that long ago to me. And 20 years ago, it wasn't even near as diverse and varied in terms of voices in young adult literature. I don't even think, was young adult literature even a category in 20 years ago?
Not really.
Yeah. Yeah. So
until I think I read somewhere once upon a time, it wasn't until Harry Potter became very popular that they kind of, because she was taking up the New York Times best-selling list because she was number one, and that the writers that weren't children's writers were kind of like, well, it's a children's book. Why is it on the New York Times best-selling list? So then they did two categories. They started doing the New York Times, and then there's a New York Times for children and young adults as well.
Oh, okay.
That's what I heard. That's what I read somewhere, and they kind of became its own little genre. And young adult, I want to say that 17th Summer by, I can't remember her name, but it was written like in the 50s, and like S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders were considered some of the first like actual young adult books, because before that they didn't call them young adults. And but yes, I want to say that too. Like a lot of the that came for this book that I really wanted this anthology was because, you know, I felt as a teacher 16 years ago, we had Sandra Cisneros, Rodolfo Anaya. There wasn't, and that was pretty much it, you know, Gola Canales. And I felt, you know, fast forward 16 years later, there was more, but there still isn't enough. I think my friend Ruben Degollado, he's also in this book. We were talking the other day, and he told me that only 4% of Latinos are published. And I'm like, how is that? That's a crazy number, 4%, you know? And so we need more. And I'm so excited and honored and thrilled that we were able to put this together for not only for our young adults, not only for our Mexican American youth, but for the world to read these stories and see the world through our eyes and see how we're not really that different. You know, we all love and cry, and we're all the same in life. So thank you guys so much for being in this anthology. So I want to know, where did your love of books begin, and what were some of your favorite books growing up? Justine?
My love of books probably began in my infancy, because my mom, she always tells me how much she read to me every day. She said that since the moment I was born, she would read to me all the time. She'd constantly be reading to me. And I honestly don't remember where I started loving books so much, because it's always been a part of my life. I remember I would read throughout middle school. I would read the Magic Treehouse books. I would read the Goosebumps books. Middle school, I was reading the series of Unfortunate Events books. I think there was like a lull around 7th and 8th grade where maybe I stopped reading for a little bit. And then my freshman year, I remember picking up Looking for Alaska by John Green. And I read that book in a day, and I just never stopped reading ever again. But all of these books are, you know, not as culturally diverse like we're talking about. They're all not. There were no characters in the books that were like me. So it was interesting to see these characters through that lens. But it would have been nice to find books on the shelves that had characters that looked like me, or you know, spoke like me. But yeah, so that's where it started. It all started with my mom when I was a baby. I can't remember any other story besides that.
And I think, you know, even though like I love Looking for Alaska, anything by John Green is, you know,
I
Green.
still love John Green.
But even if his books, they're universal. Like that's the thing. Yeah. Books are universal, and if people would just read with empathy and just see, we see so much of other cultures through books, and we can relate to each other through books. And I just think books are magic. Okay, Dominic.
Well, I wasn't much of a reader at all, and I've been fortunate enough to be a guest speaker at some schools, um, some of them, a lot of them in Eastern Europe, and what comes up is basically like part of my presentation is that I didn't read at all for a while. Like I wasn't into, I just avoided reading, and I um, I had a little spark in 8th grade where I was motivated to start trying and reading a little bit and like getting better grades because and it's kind of in Paco Jones. I'm not trying to plug Paco Jones, but there's just a lot of personal connections in that story, and one of them is about how when I was in 8th grade, I had a crush on this girl who pretty much called me stupid, said I got bad grades and was going nowhere in life, and so I noticed that she was reading Hamlet, and so I memorized lines from Hamlet from the To Be or Not to Be speech, and I recited them to her, and it worked. Like I won her over, and then I was like her boyfriend for the rest of the year, like holding hands and kissing at lunchtime, and so like I was overjoyed, and then I was motivated to do better in school and to actually read the books that I was assigned. But honestly, it didn't really like click until I was 18, and I read the first book that I read on my own that I wasn't required or assigned to read, and it was the autobiography of Malcolm X of all books, and it just blew my mind. I felt like, wow, I've been brainwashed my whole life, and now I can start to think for myself. So I'm a very late bloomer, but from that moment on, and then I read 1984 by George Orwell right after that, and I was just like, okay, now I have to read books because that's where I can find the truth. That's where I can find out about the world I live in and who I am and all these things. So late bloomer, but those are the two big ones.
And I think that's awesome that you were, I mean, because that's what I try to tell people. It doesn't matter when you start to read. Just read, just because you didn't start to read. Like some of us, like I started reading like Justine as a baby. Well, I didn't, my mom, in my mom's lap, Where the Wild Things Are, my favorite book in the whole world, because I remember reading it, my mother reading it to me. And my mother always read to me and took me to the library. So I always equated books with love. But just because you didn't have a parent who read books with you doesn't mean you can't love books now. Like, and being a late bloomer, finding books on your own, go to your library, your English teacher, somebody to give you books that you can read and relate to. I think that's very important that you said that, Dominic, because I want people to know that you can read at any age of your life. You don't have to be, oh, because I didn't read as a baby, then I'm never going to read, or I'm never going to be a reader. No, that's not true. You can always turn into a reader. So thank you for that. Okay, Sylvia?
Yes, thank you. I grew up with a home, thankfully full of books. And I remember having an old set of encyclopedias that my siblings and I used to look through, and we would make up stories about the pictures even though we couldn't read them, about, the butterflies, the birds, what we would see in the encyclopedias. So that started at home, and my parents, of course, would, encouraged us to have books and to read, and we spoke Spanish at home, so that was my first language. So we did do a reading at home. But I do remember my 3rd grade teacher. When I was in 3rd grade, we lived in Houston for a few years, and that was the time when they were busing. They had started busing. I was the only Mexican American in my class in 3rd grade. My teacher was an African American teacher, and she introduced us to Charlotte's Web, to that book, and that was my first love of reading. And I just fell in love with that book. And that book taught me about life, about love, friendship, loss. And I fell in love with it because it was animals. I could connect with the characters because they were animals, and they were farm animals, and that has always been my favorite book, because I remember the love that that teacher had for me. She connected with me. She took me in because I was the only one who was different in that classroom, and that that book just resonated with me. And I think it's a E.B. White. It's a great, great, great book, even for adults.
Yes.
So
That book is a classic for a reason, and it is a beautiful story about friendship and love, and I love that book. And sometimes I that's a great story.
yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, given our current climate, why do you think it's important to continue to write and read diverse voices? Justine?
So I think that right now in today's world, the diverse voices are actually louder than they've ever been, and they're being sought out more than they've ever been before. So I think it's especially important at this moment in time to continue to read and write it, because it's being sought out so much right now. And so the more we put out there, the more people will have access to it, because it's what everyone wants at this moment. You know, it's the popular thing, actually, for the first time ever. It's the thing that people want to understand others. I feel like they want to be able to see their words and their lives, and make those connections to other people. So yeah, I think it's extremely important right now.
I agree. I think that there's never enough, I feel sometimes. And we need to just continue. Like, I was really excited whenever it was my first assignment when I was a reviewer for school library journal. I was my first book that they sent me, it was Dominic's Paco Jones book. And I was like, wow, I wonder, like, I thought to myself, like, did they send me this book because it's like a little Mexican American book, or did I just happen to get this book out of, like, did they just send it like luck, that this is the book you get? And that's what it was. It wasn't that they sent it to me because that's just the book that they sent, because every other book I got after Dominic's book was never another book by they were just regular, just other books. And so I always felt that was like kind of like kismet, because and then Dominic, I remember, and I loved Paco Jones. It's like a little outsider. It's a great story. My son loves it too. And I remember I had posted it on Instagram, and he had contacted me or something, and I was like, I can't talk to you because I just reviewed your book, and the rules are I can't talk to you for 6 months, or I don't know what the rules are with the reviewing as a reviewer for School Library Journal, because it was a big deal, right? So I was like, I can't talk to you. So then I think 6 months or a couple, like maybe a year later, we got in contact again. And I was so grateful for that book. It was so beautiful. And how it brought me to this friendship, and how he is now, like, and how I was able to put him in here, because I felt that Paco Jones is such a great story, all his books. And I wanted him to, like, for people to read more of Dominic. So, that's how I feel about diverse books. I'm sorry, that was not the question. Okay, go, Dominic.
Thank you. So the need for diverse books. I mean, it reminds me of these moments in the classroom, whether it was me, it happened to me a couple times, or like what I've seen in classrooms before as a teacher, when there's let's say a predominantly white class, and there's an Asian student, there's a Black student, there's a Latino student, and they speak up about some issue, and then they become the de facto representative of their group. And then the rest of the class says, oh, well, that's what Black people think because, Jimmy said that, or, that's what Asian Americans think, or that's what Chinese people think because, that's what Jin Lee just said in class. And like, the more diverse voices you have, the more diverse books that are out there, that I feel like that's when those narrow categories and labels start to just fade away, and you now have you start to realize that everyone has their unique voice, and no one person is a representative of any group. And so, yeah, the more diverse voices that come out, it seems like lately it's been happening in the publishing world, I think is great. Because again, when it comes back to picking the books, and we're talking about books that we connected to, you want every kid in your classroom or every young person to be able to find that book that they can connect to. And you don't want the book to have to be about animals, to
Right.
to connect with it. You want to see the reflection of yourself in these characters. And so yeah, I think it's really important. And I'm glad that it's happening finally.
Yes. Sylvia?
Yes, thank you. It's really important that, we all have our stories. We all have something inside of us. Everyone does. And it's really important that we share those, that we get them out. And Margie did a great thing by getting this book out, so that we can get those out and get those stories shared. And it's really important that other people read our stories and that we continue to do that. But it's also, I think, important that our students, that our kids read those, and that we encourage them to write their own, that they write, because we don't know what their stories are. Everyone has their own personal story, and it's different. That they write their own stories, and that they read a diverse array of stories as well. That they read different types of stories, because they need to know what other people experience and other people go through and other people have gone through, and not just, what them themselves have gone through, to understand the whole picture, because that's really important, I think. We've gone through so much, but other people have also gone through their own struggles. Everyone goes through struggles, I guess, and that's important. Whether, like I said, whether they, whatever their race or gender, or if they're LGBTQ, or whatever their religion is, I think it's important to read different types of stories, and for the students to know that. But I think that they need to be encouraged to get their own story out, because only they can share that story.
I was really excited because last week, a local librarian here, she's a friend of mine, Nicole Cruz from Sherryland ISD. She's the head librarian in Sherryland, and she sent me a text saying that she had applied for a grant for an intergenerational book study, and that they picked Living Beyond Borders. And her grant was funded. So she was gonna get the books for the kids. They were gonna read them, and then they were gonna write their own
That's awesome.
coming of age story. And I was like, that made me so happy. Like,
Yes.
my heart was made when she
That's
did that. I was just like,
awesome.
thank you so much, Nicole, like, for thinking of this book to use as the medium to, with these kids that you're in your school district, and to encourage them to write their own stories like we have here. So that was exciting. And you're right. Kids need to know that they can write their own story, and that their stories are important, and that our voices are important. All our voices are
All
important.
our voices. They all have they each have their unique voice. They each have their story that's different, and they're the only ones who can write it. They're the only ones who can share it. So it's important.
But I'm really excited about everything that has been going on with our anthology. You guys know it was picked for the Texas Library Association puts out. That's me. I don't know how to work that alarm. It just goes off all the time in the middle of the night, and I should just unplug it. but it has all my connections. Well, anyway, the Texas Library Association has they put out lists every year. So Living Beyond Borders was picked for 2 lists this year. It was picked for the Tayshia's list, which is the young adult list that they give to all the libraries in Texas, and I was really excited about that. And then it was also picked for the Spot list, which is the Spirit of Texas, and that one comes with, they actually do like little lessons. So the teachers can actually go on the website and they're going to use this book. There's going to be like things that they can already take for the classroom and use with their students. So that was really exciting.
Awesome.
And that just happened this past month. And also it's been picked for the Read Across America. That was amazing to me because I was like, wow, it was good. So the Read Across America campaign, the National Education Agency or Association or whatever, they picked it as one of the books for this year's Read Across America campaign. So from sea to shining sea, guys, everybody is going to read our stories. And I'm real excited about that. And thank you so much for trusting me with your voices to put in this anthology so we could, give to the world. It's been very exciting. And I'm just forever grateful to you guys for going on this journey with me. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, Margie. Yeah.
It's been, but okay. So does anybody have anything they want to say? Is anybody working on anything that they want to let us know about before we sign off?
I just want to say that you have done such an amazing job, and every time I see a post about Living Beyond Borders, I'm just like, whoever's next to me, I'm like, can I just say how amazing Margie is? And I remember when she thought this up, and I still have that picture of you when you found out that.
Don't even.
And when she found out that she was going to get a published book, I took a picture of her. And it was amazing, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm just so glad that it's what you deserve. It's amazing. I'm
proud of you, Justine, and I know y'all probably think, but she was with me, like I said, for 5 years. Were you with her 5 years? 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
She was my library clerk, so she was my right hand, and I remember. I mean, this girl. She was amazing at everything. She was so young. I remember thinking, like, she's so good at everything. And I like to say she's a little version of me. That's why she's so awesome. But we clicked. And you know how hard it is to work with people that you love and get along with. And she just happened to be this, we did it. And then she's so talented. Her writing, I was like, oh my God, and then she graduated from college when she was with us. And she was going to college, so she was able to finish school. And now she just had a baby. And I'm very proud of you. And I'm so thankful for you. A lot of stuff that I did was because Justine was like there to help me. It's like, let's do the book bash. Okay. And we put a book bash together for 5 years together, and it was just her and I really, and so, and in live in person ones. So we, her and I have been through a lot together. So to have her in this anthology with me, I was even more like, I just thought like it was the icing on the cake for our little like sisterhood that we have. Yeah. So I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. Yes. It was great. Thank you.
That's great. That's really nice to hear that story. That's really beautiful story, the way it all comes together. So
yeah.
But I'm really thankful, Margie, for all that you do, for all that you do for everyone, for all of us, but for our community, for everyone in the community, for literacy. You do so much for all the kids, and we thank you for all of that. We appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks again. I know I already said thank you, Margie, but I wanted to ask you, are you visiting schools and talking about the book? How's that going?
I've visited one school, and I have others planned for the new year, and I've done virtual stuff, a lot of that, but it's been going well. It's and then with the book being on the spot list, that one we had to set that we're going to go and do school visits in Texas, and so that's exciting too. And It's been going really well. I'm really excited that students like they'll send me like messages later, like on Instagram, and they'll tell me like how they felt seen and how the certain stories they like. Everybody loves your story. Everybody loves Ruben's story about the quinceañera, and then the ojo story. Like they tell me, and I should probably send you guys. I'm gonna start sending you out little screenshots of what people are saying about your particular stories, because every story in my in this anthology has resonated with so many people. And like when I say from sea to shining sea, I literally mean that, because I get messages all the time, and I'm so like, I love it, from people from all over that love the stories and why they love it and how it changed them for this and for that. And I know people think that readers are ridiculous, because sometimes you think this book changed my life, but books do change your life. Like people like Twilight changed my life.
I think that the content in the book is diverse, so it can resonate with different kids, different students, different adults even. You know, someone will find something in the different stories, in the different poems, and you know, they'll find something that they can relate to. So that's what's really neat about it. And they can skip around. They don't have to read it cover to cover either.
Yeah.
And people do, like, everybody seems to find something that they can grab and like that they could take from it. And that's been probably the best part of it all, like to hear readers, to see them, and to to read what they say about this book. And it's been bigger than I thought. It was more than my wildest dreams, but it's been amazing, and I'm so grateful, and thank you guys for being here with me in this forever. We're here forever. And one day I want, like, because Dominic's all across, like I said, in the future. I want all of us, like, I'm like, how do I get everybody together for one big party? Because
that would be awesome.
I think one big party all the time. That would be so.
Let's do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Summertime would work for me.
At the beach. We have a beach here where we live.
Yeah.
We have a really nice beach.
That would be great, Margie. Let's plan it.
We should plan it. Let's do it, Sylvia. Let's plan. Justine?
Let's plan it.
Yes, we'll plan it. Let's do it.
Yeah. But thank you guys so much. And I'm really happy to see your faces. And Justine, congratulations on the new baby. And Dominic,
congratulations. And Dominic, too.
Congratulations. Thank you.
You guys are probably tired. So
I'm energized now, but you've got other panels to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap this one up. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thank
you all.
you.
Y'all take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.
Careful.
Nice meeting you. Bye.
Nice meeting you.